very good morning, children, and welcome back to our online classes. Today, the story that we are going to learn is Mr. Talent's Ghost. I do know, children, whenever I talk about comedy and horror, you all are equally interested. So, the stories which belong to this genre of horror is always interesting, is it not? So, let's understand such story. But before that, let's talk about the author of this story. Mary Gladys Webb, who is the author of this story, was an English romantic novelist and poet of the early 20th century, whose work is set chiefly in the Shropshire countryside and among Shropshire characters and people whom she knew. She is best known for her book Precious Bairn, her love for nature, and a sense of impending doom within her novels invite comparison with those qualities in the works of Thomas Hardy. But mostly her works were similar to Thomas Hardy's works. Yeah, because she had a good love for nature and sometimes serious. She used to write on serious topics. But in this story, Webb has used humor too. Therefore, we understood that she possessed a funny bone. That is what they say. So she was born on 25th March 1881 in Shropshire, United Kingdom, and died on 8th October 1927 in St. Leonard's, United Kingdom. One of her stories has also been credited into a film, that is Gone to Earth. So now, before we begin the story, let's understand who are the characters of the story. Mr. Talent Ghost. Mr. Talent was one of the characters who was an eccentric writer, the narrator who is a barrister, and the relatives of Mr. Talent, and Johnson, who was a journalist as well as a critic. So the story begins. On a rainy day, in a lonely inn, Mr. Talent subjects the barrister narrator to hours of excruciating boredom. He continuously reads out his boring manuscripts in a monotonous and oppressive voice. To prevent further reading, the narrator immediately agrees to sign the will, which writes that Mr. Talent leaves all his property to the narrator to publish his manuscripts after his death. He could also hire a critic to avoid spending his precious time. So, Mr. Talent was in the room near the fire, and as the narrator was lonely and it was raining, therefore he felt that he would spend some time with Mr. Talent, but later he realized that his manuscripts were all very boring. He wanted to get up from that place. They were very monotonous, and he was reading them in a very oppressive voice without any interest. He actually did not want to stay there anymore, but Mr. Talent would not leave him. So finally, when Mr. Talent told him that, okay, after my death, posthumous, after my death, would you publish all these manuscripts? I would write my property on your name. So as he wanted to get rid of Mr. Talent at that particular time, so he did not want to listen to further reading anymore. So he immediately signs on the will, which is a legal document, and he moves away from that place. Mr. Talent also tells him that you need not waste your time in reading out all the manuscripts and publishing them. You can use my property to hire a critic, and then that critic would tell you which are the good manuscripts, and therefore you can avoid wasting your precious time in reading my manuscripts. So then he completely forgot about Mr. Talent. Okay, for the next 10 years, Mr. Talent never came to him or did not contact him. So the second time, that was the first time that he had in touch with Mr. Talent. Then now the second time he heard after 10 years about Mr. Talent, what did he hear is he read about his death in the newspaper. So now he suddenly remembered about the will which he had signed. First came the usual kind of letter from a lawyer. Then followed by a call from his assistant. And then came the manuscripts with the legal documents sent in a box that, see, this is your property, this will. Now you are supposed to publish these manuscripts using the property. And then came letters from Mr. Talent's relatives demanding a share in the property. So now Mr. Talent, after he died, his relatives wanted to take his property, and as they knew that the property was on the name of the narrator, so they all started writing letters demanding the share. The narrator wavers between sympathy for the relatives and loyalty to Mr. Talent's wish. Narrator never liked his manuscripts, so he did not want to publish them. But he felt that he had promised somebody, so he should fulfill his wish. And at the same time, he had a sympathy for the relatives that it is always better to use the money for someone's good instead of publishing nonsense. That is what he felt. So as soon as he opened the box, he felt Mr. Talent's ghost hovering, his presence and his voice. So suddenly he felt that if he is not going to publish, then the ghost would hover upon him. Okay, so Mr. Johnson was actually a journalist. Okay, he was also a critic who always hoped to unearth a masterpiece. So the narrator hired him to read the boxful manuscripts and decide which ones were worth publishing. Now, as he could not escape, so he hired Mr. Johnson to find out which ones to publish. Mr. Johnson gave his opinion that none was worth publishing. So no manuscript was worth publishing. Meanwhile, letters started pouring out from his relatives that he were in sore need of money, and the money should not be wasted in publishing the worthless manuscripts. So he also felt the same. So therefore he had a sympathetic or a soft corner for his relatives. If the narrator agreed, he felt If the narrator agreed, he felt Mr. Talent's hovering presence, mute, anxious and hurt, which was hurting him. He felt when he agreed to give it to relatives, he felt that Mr. Talent is around somewhere. If he disagreed, he got a solicitor's letter by post. That means one of his relatives would post the letter asking him to give the money. The narrator arranges for a meeting to come to a conclusion, what to do. So he calls up all his relatives and discusses with them. During this, he sees Mr. Talent passing the window, but Mr. Johnson says that it was only because he is overstrained. So he saw here, you see, Mr. Talent, he saw here passing through the window, but nobody else could see him. So they felt that only because of overstrain, he is saying that he is able to see Mr. Talent's ghost. Finally, there is an out-of-court settlement, and a portion of the property is given to his relatives, and the rest was decided that it would be used for publishing the manuscripts. So after a month, the narrator suddenly comes to know that the beneficiaries, means the people who have got his money, were haunted by Mr. Talent's ghost, which was very, very something that everybody would be afraid of, who used to read the manuscripts aloud to them. So because of this continuous reading of manuscripts by Mr. Talent's ghost, his relatives had become mad. So they lost their mental peace and they got nervous breakdown, and their relatives admitted them in hospitals for treatment. During their treatment, they never saw Mr. Talent in the hospital. But as soon as after they got well and they went home, again they were haunted by him, and so they lost their peace. Now, not only his relatives, his beneficiaries, but Mr. Talent also started appearing in front of as a ghost, showing his presence every time, every evening, every night when nobody else was there. Only he could see the ghost. He could hear him read the manuscripts looming over him like an immense van moth. That is what he says. He could feel his presence. So now he also has become mad. Doctor also suggested him to go to a hospital, but he denied, saying that I will find a problem to this solution. So after 3 years after Mr. Talent's death, the narrator sees him again walking down a road. He immediately hails a taxi and jumps right in front of him, he is surprised to discover that Mr. Talent is very much alive. So he expected that he should be a ghost of Mr. Talent, but suddenly he was surprised, stunned to know that it was Mr. Talent who was alive when he caught him. Mr. Talent explains to the surprised narrator that it was he himself who gave the notice in the newspaper about his death. You see, he himself only wrote that I am dead. He had done this to experiment on them and writing a treatise on the power of human endurance. So he wanted to check the power of human endurance. Therefore, for that treatise to write all that, he had done an experiment. Mr. Talent was not only a novelist but a psychoanalyst. Psychoanalyst is a kind of doctor. The manuscript publishing was a part of his experiment to prove the endurance of human mind to withstand a difficult situation. How they would withstand any kind of difficult situation. So finally, he comes to know that he has done all these things for his, as an experiment for his thesis, to write his treatise. So which was something very, very stunning, and the narrator got really angry. Is it worth that someone troubles somebody else only for their own selfishness? It's not correct way, but which Mr. Talent had done. Okay, now some of the vocabulary words which you have learnt in this chapter. In previous chapter, there are no many difficult words in Red-Headed League, but in this chapter you will find some words which you need to understand. Elucidate is to make clear. Liable is likely. Marshaled is arranged. Rapture, delight. Exactitude, the quality of being exact. Pathos, despair. Abominable, unpleasant. Wan, pale. Devoutly, sincerely. Few more words for you to understand. Asylum, here it means the hospital in this story. Psychoanalyst, a kind of doctor. Someone who is a blackguard is a scoundrel. A magnum opus is the most important piece of work done by a writer. And treatise is a written work dealing formally and systematically with a subject. So, this was the treatise which he was preparing. Exhaustive, thorough and complete. Endurance, the ability to withstand a difficult situation. So, please try to use these words in your everyday conversation. Clear? Thank you and hope you had clearly understood this chapter.